Whenever I pick up the Rosary, I have to overcome a slight aversion to the idea of repeating prayers over and over again. But what immediately helps me to begin to overcome this aversion is the physical contact I have when I take the Rosary out of my pocket and hold it in my hand. Clearly, the Rosary is something to hold on to, like a rope in the ocean. I enjoy the tactile connection as I roll the round wooden beads slowly between my thumb and forefinger. Somehow, the surface of the beads seems to communicate tranquility. I believe something similar is expressed by people who are seriously ill or dying in the hospital. I sometimes encounter individuals when I go to bless them who are simply holding their Rosary. They aren't saying any prayers or meditating on the mysteries. They are simply holding the Rosary. Again, I think this very simple action brings consolation, expresses hope, and communicates to them a quiet tranquility. I remember Father John Hemrogue, a Redemptorist priest, once wrote, "In grave illness or in death, it will be enough just to clutch the Rosary or wordlessly rub the beads." There have been times in my own life, and I'm sure in yours, when feeling somewhat low before falling asleep or worried about something, we simply held our Rosary without attempting to recite it in order just to make contact with a higher power. While to some people, the Rosary may seem like a strange relic of a bygone age, to many Catholics and Christians, it's part of the luggage of our faith and devotion, something we can often take for granted as if it were a key ring or fountain pen in our purses or pockets. And yet, whether it be a matter of fact or a mystery, this small circlet of beads provides us with spiritual assurance that helps to remind us that God is always with us. As the Rosary, moving between my fingers, gradually awakens me to the presence of God, I find myself slowly untangling my thoughts and setting out with Mary on the circular path. I like to imagine myself as mentally walking somewhere with Mary, down memory lane, south to Bethlehem or some other birthplace, north to Jerusalem or a less distant sacrificial altar. The Hail Marys are like the steps I take, often moving the feet of my heart and mind to keep the prayer in progress. Each mystery is a way station where, if the journey is going well, then I pause to rest, recollect, and redirect my intentions. I find that racing through the prayer, as if the beads were a Chinese abacus, hurriedly calculating graces earned, ultimately drains the color of my Rosary. I might as well drive down the main coastline without noticing the passing landscape. Madeline L'Engle describes how the native Hawaiians used to sit for long periods outside their temple before they entered to pray and after they had made their petitions. They were breathing life into their prayers. When we take the time to focus on the mystery at hand, God, through the power of the Holy Spirit, breathes life and calm and peace into our weary hearts and anxious minds. A friend once told me that while meditating on the mysteries of the Rosary, he first placed himself within the scene that was taking place. So that, for instance, when the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary at the Annunciation, or in this gospel scene this afternoon, in which Jesus is being presented at the temple, my friend would describe himself as quietly seated in the shadows of the scene and watching. And with practice, he found the event became more astonishing and moving each time he did it. All those momentous events in the life of Jesus and Mary find an echo, meaning in our everyday lives, and they cannot leave us untouched. All this is brought to mind through the gentle repetition of the Hail Mary, as we enter a world in which our thoughts move with freedom, limited only by the gentle rhythm of prayer. For years before I go out to say Mass in public or in private, I always remind myself of a famous quote that was inscribed in the sacristy in the seminary where I taught, and perhaps you've seen it. It says, "Priest of God, say this Mass as if it were your first Mass. Say it as if it were your last Mass. Say it as if it were your only Mass." I like to take those words and not only apply it to the Eucharist, but to say it to myself before I begin to say the Rosary. Priest of God, say this Rosary as if it were your first Rosary, as if it were your last Rosary, as if it were your only Rosary. It helps me to move away from treating this beautiful prayer simply as a function and actually making it an experience in which God truly becomes present in my life through Mary's intercession and reflecting on the mysteries of Christ. And if you can't remember that prayer, let me conclude with the remarkably pertinent prayer written by Blessed Pope John Paul II. Holy Mary, Mother of God, you have given the world its true light, Jesus, your Son, the Son of God. In this Rosary, show us Jesus. Lead us to Jesus, so that we may become capable of true love, and through this Rosary be fountains of living water in the midst of this thirsting world.